Lesson 38, Sambhavi Mudra. First of all, what is mudra? Many people will say, when you ask what is mudra, they will say that is hand movements or finger movements. Now, what is the meaning of finger movements? There are finger movements in yoga, indeed. If you go to a shop that sells spiritual paraphernalia, or whatever that is called, you find statues that show certain hand movements. This one is a very common one. But the ninjas in Japan traditionally also have their hand movements or their finger movements. And it's surrounded with lots of mystery. And because of all the mystery, nobody really knows the real meaning behind it. The purpose of finger movements is simply to help illiterate people remind certain concepts. That is what it is about. Every finger movement for the ninja represents a certain value. The value of courage, of respect, of like the yamas and the niyamas, basically, to instill moral values and stick to them, hold on to them. On a ritual basis, repeating these concepts helps the warrior, the ninja, to integrate those principles into the way that they deal with their tasks. Mudra in yoga, finger movements in yoga, is not about the yamas and the niyamas. We have learned them on an intellectual basis without the symbolism, but is a form of energy control that is based on attitude or feeling or emotion. Now, emotion is always accompanied by large amounts of energy. But the problem is, it's always uncontrolled. Attitude is something that you can learn. But if you don't learn it, you are just the victim or the subject of whatever it is that the circumstances present you with. So mudra, for some part, mudra is energy control, manipulating energy, generating energy by instilling a certain feeling in you. That is, Sambhavi Mudra is based on that principle. Another way or variant of mudra is based on attitude. This mudra, for example, the meaning of this mudra is very interesting. What you see in the symbolism of this is a vow. By putting your hand in front of your heart, you make a vow. Now this is more interesting. You make a vow of what? Ego and control. The thumb represents solidity or control, while the index finger is the finger that you use to point at yourself, is representing ego. I vow to control my ego, which is of course a very important concept. Illiterate people use this as a reminder, because sitting like this, even if you sit like this for an hour or a day, is not going to help you control your ego. It may look interesting or mysterious, but it's nonsense. This is just symbolism. What is really powerful is that you understand what ego is, and based on that insight, learn to control that in situations where ego becomes an obstacle, where ego becomes toxic. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika starts with the basics of yoga, yama, niyama, asana, and laying the foundation for the right creating the right environment and diet to make your yoga succeed. Chapter 2 is all about pranayama, energy control. So it increases in sophistication. Chapter 3 is mudra, which indicates that mudra is more powerful than pranayama. With pranayama you lay the foundation, you generate more energy, circulation of energy is accelerated. With mudra you learn to control that. A very practical application of mudra is something that you may already do in daily life. That is to try to stay calm and controlled in difficult situations. But the moment that you are not calm and controlled anymore in difficult situation, you lose it. And the situation will take control of you and cause lots of mayhem. So the person who's able to stay calm and controlled under pressure will succeed, will stay in control of the situation. That is what the part of the mudra is about. You have applied this principle already when you do asana. What you do with asanas, some asanas more than others, is you put yourself under pressure in some difficult and strenuous posture, while at the same time, while doing so, staying focused, staying calm and controlled. And what you learn from the beginning with asana is the moment that you feel you cannot stay calm and controlled anymore, asana has served its purpose. You can stop doing it now. So you do not let the clock rule how long you stay in a posture. Even though we always put a time indication on the board, it's not important. The only thing that is important is what you feel. And with mudra you bring that to a higher level. And very interesting is, of course, and of the most value is, of course, that this is not just an exercise or a practice, it integrates in how you function in daily life. And that is where it really starts to pay off and have a practical application. Now, Sambhavi Mudra is also, because mudra is finger movements for many people, if you look up Sambhavi Mudra, you will see that it is done like this. The thumbs close the ears, the index fingers close the eyes, the middle fingers close the nostrils, the ring fingers are on the upper lips, and the pinkies are on the crease between the lower lip and the chin. And if you read about Sambhavi Mudra, you will see the promise that it will lead to enlightenment. Now, the same as with this mudra, if you sit like this for hours or days, it's definitely not going to lead to enlightenment, because it's not about the fingers. The fingers are just reminders. It becomes interesting when you understand what you're doing. The thumbs close the ears. That is the throat chakra. The index fingers close the eyes, which is Manipura chakra. The middle fingers close the nostrils, which is Muladhara chakra. The ring fingers are on the upper lips, sensitivity. Is related to the heart chakra, and the pinkies on the crease between the lower lip and the chin represent the water center, or Svadhisthana chakra. When we do Sambhavi Mudra, we are not concerned with the fingers. They are reminders for illiterate people. We are literate, so we use the intellect to learn and also perform the exercise. Very interesting is Sambhavi Mudra is mentioned in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, chapter 4, but it's not explained exactly how to do it. And you can search the internet and you will not find a proper explanation how to do it other than using your fingers, covering the senses. We have learned about Sambhavi Mudra from Swami Yoga Anand from Kathmandu in the 1980s. He explained the meaning of the fingers and the covering of the senses. And it is described in detail in the handout, page 1 and 2. Or page 1 and the first half of page 2 you can ignore because we went through that many times. It's about energy, about Shiva and Shakti, the sun gate and the moon gate. But the second half of page 2 and the rest on page 3 describe how you perform in a practical way Sambhavi Mudra, and then it becomes a very systematic exercise to not only generate Kundalini exercise, but to bring that energy up to Ajna Chakra and the Crown Chakra. Very systematically, starting with the lowest chakra, then working your way up to the throat. So you start with Muladhara Chakra, and you stimulate Muladhara Chakra with the emotion pride, haughtiness, pride. Maybe it's the explanation why you find so much arrogance in spiritual circles. Of course, if you understand how this works, you use this as a tool, but you do not let that emotion creep into you and make you become full of haughtiness or pride. You simply use it as a tool to generate energy. And this one is the most important because that is where it starts, in Muladhara Chakra, where also the Surya Bindu is located, sun gate, where Shakti energy or Kundalini rises up, enters into our system and rises up. How do you approach that? Everybody, if you think of it a little bit, has moments in life of which you can be proud, achievements of which you can be proud. So you simply recall the feeling, the emotion that you felt when you had that achievement. There can be victory in sports, reaching the highest levels of the competition if you're engaged in sports. But it can also be obtaining a degree or a diploma in any kind of field. Pride in doing good things as a person, maybe helping people or making a difference. So it sounds very frivolous, this, but you take it very serious. You try to really undergo that emotion that you know you feel when you really experience pride in something of your own choosing. This is very personal. Everybody has their own way or their own memory or experience that you apply. It's very personal. You have to figure that out in the beginning. That's why I found it also very important to do this not in the last class. Pull it back so that you have at least some time to repeat and experience the exercise more than once. The second step is stimulation of Svadhisthana chakra. And you do that with the emotion of beauty, artistic tendency or artistry. The purpose of art is the stimulation of the water center. It makes people civilized. Strange as that may sound, but it explains why governments, once countries become wealthy, they start investing in art for the people. They build museums, galleries, and they subsidize heavily people who engage in creating art. And they want everybody to come and enjoy the art. Often it's for free, or the entrance price is very low, so that everybody can enjoy it, or as many people as possible can enjoy it, because it civilizes people. It makes you kind of soft inside. In the Netherlands, if you ask Korean people about the Netherlands, well, their idea of the Netherlands has become a little bit more sophisticated. The world has become smaller. Everybody knows about the Netherlands. But when I came to Korea 27 years ago, Dutch people knew very little about Korea, and Korean people knew very little about the Netherlands. But if you talked about it, they would say flowers and windmills. The Netherlands is the country of flowers. If you go to a shopping center, a shopping mall in the Netherlands, you will find one supermarket, you will find one shop that sells all kinds of household goods, like pots and pans and linen and what have you. You'll find a clothes shop, a shoe shop, a butcher and a baker. But you will find 3 or 4 flower stalls. And most people, at least once a week, on their shopping trip, bring a bunch of flowers home. And they put it somewhere on the chimney, or on the table, or on a cabinet somewhere. And we use flowers also to soften people up when we have a conflict. You have a fight with a sibling or a friend, and you kind of want to make up. So you call your friend or your sibling and you say, hey, you have a little time? I will be there around 7. Then on your way, you stop by the flower stall, you buy a nice bunch of flowers, and you ring the bell with the flowers behind your back. And there is a grudge, there is a bad feeling, bad sentiment. And you say, hi, ta-da, I'm sorry. Do you mind if I come in and we have a cup of tea and can we talk about it? And you see the pain in the other person's eye or the resistance, but the flowers make them melt. The flowers make them not able to hold on to the grudge. So it's kind of, in Dutch we have the word ontwapenen, which means you disarm. It literally means disarming. You disarm people with the beauty of the flowers. And you talk it out in an amicable way, or at least you can at least communicate with each other after that event. So it's really about the water center. Sense of beauty. How do you approach this in your exercise? Again, it's very personal. Anything that touches you. I had this deep, profound feeling of beauty and perfection when I was looking at a dahlia. A dahlia is a flower. It's a big flower that looks a little bit like a lotus. It has many, many petals. It has a very velvety texture. And the one that I had on my balcony in Amsterdam before I came to Korea was this color, wine red. We call it Bordeaux red in Dutch. It's a wine red. It's the reason why those cushions are wine red. The color of these cushions is not a coincidence or just because that was what available. I consciously and deliberately chose that color. There is no coincidence in the life of a yogi. Everything has a reason and a purpose. Same with the cushions. Because I had that deep, profound experience of beauty. So every time when I do Sambhavi Mudra, I recall that moment that I was looking at that beautiful flower and soaked up the perfection and the beauty in that very moment. It's one of those special moments in life that you never forget. That you remember many, many years later, decades later, into the tiniest detail. That kind of sense of beauty. So it can be anything. You can have this experience with a person. You can have this with a painting. You can have this with a butterfly that you see fluttering around during spring, going from flower to flower, or there's beauty in many things if you look at it. And especially contemplative people see that beauty much more than unconditioned people. So try to find something that works for you. For me, it's the dahlia. For every person, that will be something personal. The easiest one is the stimulation of Manipura chakra, which is the fireball, which represents ego. So, I haven't mentioned the fingers and the sense that is related. Very interesting. When you talk about the first chakra we stimulate, you have pride. Muladhara chakra is represented by smell, which is the middle finger. Pride. You see the connection? Is that a coincidence or not? I don't think so. It's a universal gesture that people indeed use when they feel kind of haughty. The pinky represents artistic tendency. The Svadhisthana chakra, that's a little bit less obvious than the middle finger. But the index finger is the one that you use when you talk about yourself. Ego. There's no other finger that you use to when you talk about yourself. You always use your index finger. It represents ego. It covers the eyes. Vision or eyesight, is the Jnanendriya of Manipura chakra. Ego is very easy to stimulate. Just imagine somebody calling out your name loudly. I imagine standing on the balcony or hanging out the window, looking out in the street, and somebody who knows me, suddenly who notices me standing there, shouts my name, "Ron! Hey, Ron!" It immediately makes your spine straight. You can see this with children. Especially teachers and parents know this. When children are unruly, misbehaving, and need to be called to order, what do? You call out their name. not whispering or softly. You call out their name strongly and loudly, and you immediately have their attention. They straighten up and, what, me? You call me? Ego is the easiest. So, again, try to find something that works for you to stimulate Manipura chakra. The heart chakra, Anahata chakra, is stimulated, not surprisingly, by a sense of loyalty. And it is represented by the ring fingers. And you may wonder why ancient people, when they developed the ritual of getting married, decided to put a ring of precious metal on the left ring finger. Not the right, but the left. Because apparently the left side is connected to the heart. Then people who suffer heart attacks notice that the whole left arm becomes either painful or numb. And the reason why you use precious metal is precious for a reason. It's sattvic. The sattva in the precious metal harmonizes the heart, leading to a sense of loyalty, faithfulness, which is the vow that you make in front of the preacher or the pastor or whatever person is doing the wedding ceremony for you. You vow loyalty to your future spouse, partner. And you conclude that with precious metal on your left ring finger. Sense of loyalty, I instill a sense of loyalty not with a partner, but with the path that I have chosen in life. The path of following my heart. The path of staying loyal to my principles. Knowing that yoga is incredibly valuable, but is being distorted in so many ways, devalued by people who do not understand what they're doing, who do not understand the depth and the value of yoga if it is done correctly, making me determined to stay true to that and continue to teach yoga in the traditional way, because that is what makes the difference. And if you're not interested in true development, true spirituality, then there are many other places where you can go and just exhaust yourself doing exercises. Loyalty to the path that you have chosen or the principles that you adhere to is more powerful, I think, than loyalty to a partner, because relationships are always very complex. Also for us yogis, we try to be as pure as possible and unconditional in our relationships, but still there are always complications and certain conflicts that may pollute your sense of loyalty when you do this exercise. So it's better to choose something a little less complicated. The last one is the throat chakra, Vishuddhi chakra, and that chakra is it's represented by the thumbs, which cover the ears. The hearing is the function or the Jnanendriya of the throat chakra. And you stimulate the throat chakra with a sense of firmness, solidity, determination. I don't know if you noticed, but when you meet real yogis, they have a tendency to be quite stubborn, strong-willed, solidity. That is the thumb, the biggest limb on your hand. Among the 5 limbs that you have is the thumbs, representing solidity, firmness. And it is, for me, it is an extension of the heart chakra, the loyalty, and being very firm about it. Not wanting to compromise. Even if a situation becomes difficult, sometimes even desperate, you will just not deviate from what you think is the right thing to do. Even if it could make your life easier in the moment, at that moment. That kind of solidity. Determination. And the interesting part of this mudra is these 5 concepts will be magnified in you. You absorb these 5 qualities, and they will strengthen you, and they will strengthen you in the way that you live your life and achieve your goals. But the purpose is mainly to stimulate the chakra. Stimulation leads to the generation of energy in that chakra, but not only that, expansion and rising up. Energy that contracts descends, leading to tamas condition, and closing off of the higher levels of consciousness. But the purpose of this is to generate energy, Shakti energy, in each of the chakras very systematically. Shakti energy always expands and rises up. And it then fuels the Ajna chakra, the mental body, and most importantly, the crown chakra, Sahasrara chakra, the spiritual body. And that is what you do next. You use this to enhance and deepen your meditation that follows after this. So that is what we do. We start with the pranayama. Shitkari pranayama. Followed by Sambhavi Mudra. And the remainder of the time, as we have done so far at the end of every class, the remainder of the time, concentration, meditation on nada. And because we add Sambhavi Mudra to the mix, we increase the total time to 40 minutes. So, pride, ego, pride, beauty, ego, loyalty, and solidity. Just if you engage in Sambhavi Mudra, It will become a routine if you repeat the exercise, but in the beginning you may not remember the next step to take. So if you lose track, just open your eyes and look at where you are at and the next step you need to make. Or if you have your notes with you or the handout, you can just keep it next to you or in front of you and look at it when you need it. In the beginning, it can be a little bit of a distraction because it's new and very elaborate. It becomes a little bit a mental thing. You have to think, what's next, what I have to do, what concept do I use for this particular chakra. But once you have repeated the exercise a couple of times, it becomes intuitive, based on feeling. I always compare it with driving a car. I may have used that example before. When you learn to drive a car, when the first time, your mind is very busy with all the levers and looking at the road at the same time that your feet and hands are busy. But an experienced driver doesn't even know what the hands and feet are doing anymore, because driving becomes intuitive. This is how this works with Sambhavi Mudra too. In the beginning, you're a little bit busy. When you get used to it, it becomes very intuitive, very smooth. All right. Yeah, take your time.